This morning we have two scriptures. The first is Matthew 7. Ask and keep asking, and you will receive. Seek and keep seeking, and you will find. Knock and keep knocking, and the door will be open to you. For the one who keeps asking receives. The one who keeps seeking finds. And the one who keeps knocking enters. Is there any among you who would hand your child a stone when they ask for bread? Would one of you hand them a snake when they ask for a fish? If you, with all your faults, could know how to give your children what is good, how much more will God in heaven give good things to those who ask? Therefore, treat others as you would have them treat you. This is the whole meaning of the law and the prophets. Our next reading is from the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6. Wisdom shines brightly and never fades. She is easily seen by those who love her, and she is easily found by those who seek her. She reveals herself to all who desire to know her, and those who rise early to search for her will not grow weary of the journey, for they will find her seated at their door. To ponder her is the fullness of wisdom, and to pursue her is to soon find peace of mind. She searches the far ends of the earth for those who are worthy of her, and she appears to them on their daily path with kindness, meeting them halfway in their journeys. The true meaning of wisdom is the desire to learn, and to be passionate about learning is to love her. The love of wisdom means keeping her laws at all times. Keeping her standards assures you of immortality, and staying pure brings you close to God. In this way, the desire for wisdom leads you to true sovereignty. If you who rule over people and wish to keep your thrones and symbols of power, then honor wisdom so that you may lead forever. Ancient words for our present day consideration.
If this is your first time at St. Andrews, we're in a series where I'm trying to compare like traditional verses that you've probably heard if you're from the Protestant tradition with mystical Jewish passages that are in the Catholic Bible. They're not in the Protestant Bible. We're doing a series on Sophia, and that was the feminine name of wisdom. The religion you probably heard if you were raised in the United States is of European origin. Right? The early church developed in the Middle East. It was a mixture of Africa and India and yes, some of Europe too. But what happened when Christianity got to Europe is that it was changed, and it became about power. In the early church, everything got back to compassion, wisdom, gentleness. But once this message hit Europe, it was transformed where Jesus became a king. See, before there was some of that imagery used. But the church, the culture in which the church developed, believed in hierarchical power. That righteousness is keeping this hierarchical pecking order straight. And whereas that was the last thing Jesus believed or taught, it became traditional. And so there became kind of a pecking order for humankind. And that still is imposed on much of the world today. So today we're going to look at this passage, ask, seek, knock. You've heard it before, probably your whole life. But you may have never been given permission to realize that the traditional version doesn't work. Ask and you will receive. Is there anybody here who's ever asked for anything in prayer and didn't get it? Anybody? Has there ever been anything that you sought for with all of your being, and yet you were still not able to find it? Have you ever knocked on a door and it just didn't open? This passage is very different when we look at it from the viewpoint of the original Christianity. It's about wisdom. It's about compassion. It's about understanding. It's not about obedience. It's not about memorizing beliefs. Because belief is something very different than wisdom. If you make a selfish prayer, even if you get that, you're still not really equipped to help other people. Right? You got your needs met. But originally, prayer was a moment of transformation where you went deep in your heart and you discovered this profound love for all humankind. That's what we need to get back to. I'm so grateful that you're willing to listen to this series. Some of it's not that easy. But I believe we want to give our children something that we didn't receive. And that is a religion that works scientifically, a religion that works in terms of human rights, a religion that isn't scared of change. What a gift that would be. The traditional view of prayer is not always real helpful. We have politicians that after every school shooting send out thoughts and prayers. Oh God, please save our children from our political policies. Wake up, God. Stop letting us hurt each other. If we go deeper in our heart, that's going to change. And one of the things that you can't see in English that's right there in the Greek, and this translator tried to get some of that out, but when it goes ask and seek, ask means to continually ask. So we're not talking about a one-time request. We're talking about a way of living. And then the second word, a very strange tense that we don't have in English, where you arrive at the condition of already receiving what you're looking for. You're already there, and you suddenly realize it. So if you continually ask, you will find yourself in the situation of having received what you were really looking for. If you seek, you will find yourself continually as a way of life. You will find yourself in the condition of having found what you're looking for. If you knock on the door continually, you'll find it will have opened for you. So we're going to walk through the ASK, but we're going to move from an idea of prayer as a conversation with an invisible magic person who's going to grant your wish, to going deeper into your understanding, into your compassion, going deeper in your heart until you are transformed into love, into kindness, into understanding. So the first thing we're going to look at is the idea of ask and you will receive. I've chosen a great slide for this first one. Probably my strongest memories of childhood bliss is sitting on Santa's lap. That's not me. And maybe you haven't had this particular experience, but where you want something really bad, like you're a kid, you want to sit on Santa's lap, and all of a sudden you sit there and everything's strange. Santa looks different up close. And all of a sudden you want to be back with your parents again. To me, probably the greatest hell you could visit on me would be to go back and grant all of the requests I made of Santa Claus and ship them to my house now. At the time, I was suffocating to get whatever that was, whatever that toy was. Not only would that not be meaningful to you now, it would be very bothersome now. Can you imagine if all the people you had a crush on suddenly showed up, it would be hell. So you have that verse that says God isn't going to give you, if you pray for bread, you're not going to get a scorpion. And there was a type of, stone. There was a type of bread in the Middle East looks sort of like rocks sometimes to us. That's what real bread looks like. They also had fish, when you looked at them in the murky water, sometimes distinguishing between a snake and a fish was difficult. So what it's saying is, if we could get all of our immature wishes granted, we'd be more miserable than we are now. So what we're really needing through prayer is to discover what we really want. Listen to the verse from the Sophia passage. So this is the ask. See if this sounds like your Sunday school. It doesn't sound like mine. It says the true meaning of wisdom is the desire to learn, and to be passionate about learning is to love her. Again, the word Sophia is feminine. The true meaning of wisdom is the desire to learn, and to be passionate about learning is to love her. See, with that understanding of wisdom, you could take up science. You could be honest. What I was taught is to memorize answers. And as I've said before, there were answers to questions I wasn't asking. What if you understood prayer is going into a deep process of transformation? Where when you ask for something, you kept going deeper. What do I want? Why do I want that? Where's this coming from? Is it an object I want? Or is it something deeper and more profound than that? I was changed very much by a game we used to play in my neighborhood. I was sort of the inventor of games in our neighborhood, and most of them were wicked games. For example, one of the games we played was Evil Genie. I was the evil genie, and the other neighborhood kids would come up with a wish. To wish for something, and the purpose of the evil genie was to mess it up, to give them what they asked for, but in a way that made it bad. So if they asked for $1 million, it'd be $1 million Confederate dollars, or $1 million that had been robbed from a bank nearby. Something like that. You get the general idea. But then one day, one of the kids wished for happiness. And the evil genie couldn't think of a very good way to mess that up. And I stayed with it and realized that the inner virtues that the mystics talk about are things that are beyond fate in a very important sense. That when I wish for courage, temperance, wisdom, justice, those lead me to happiness in a way that objects can't, or that accidents of fate cannot. So when you ask and you don't receive, the suggestion here is it's because you're asking for something you already have, but it has to grow out of you. It's like a bee doesn't have to look for honey, the bee has to look for pollen. The sweetest qualities of human being come out of living deeply. They cannot be given to us from the outside in. So what the mystics have always said is, instead of looking for all the external things, find the inner treasures, and those will grow. But you discover them in seed form. You never discover them directly because they have to grow from the inside out. That's what makes them yours. That's what makes them something nobody else can steal. Not even fate. The second part of the phrase is seek and you shall find. that really changes when we think in terms of wisdom. If you're looking for wisdom, that's different than just a blank checklist. If you're seeking compassion, wisdom, it's very different than just saying whatever you seek, you're going to find. Listen again to the passage from Sophia. She, Sophia, wisdom, searches the far ends of the earth for those who are worthy of her, and she appears to them on their daily path with kindness, meeting them halfway in all of their journeys. Why do you think when Jesus is supposedly talking just about prayer, he ends with, therefore, treat others as you would have them treat you? This is the whole meaning of the law and the prophets. He wasn't just talking about us praying for things that we want. He was talking about us being deeply transformed. And what I think is being said is when we're looking for wisdom, it's around us all the time. There's a great saying by Rumi, the Sufi. It's not as good as the Santa Claus, but it's good. What you seek is seeking you. Every particle in the universe reverberates with every other part. That's not just mysticism, that's science. So the universe is in conversation with us, with our awareness. When you are prepared to learn and you walk through a forest, what happens? It explodes with communication. If you're expecting the animals to speak English, it's probably not going to be that good of a trip. But if you're willing to learn their language, then all kinds of things can happen. There's a saying in Taoism that without going outside of your house, you can discover everything there is. There's enough wisdom in your yard to get a college degree's worth of information and more. Life speaks to us. Life guides us. If we seek that, then it's right there. It's closer than our breath. We're not lost. We're not alone. We just need to stop talking for a second and listen. And wisdom is right there. The difference between the idea of a magical, powerful God and this gentle teaching spirit is that when we don't get what we want, we somehow think we've fallen short with the magical, powerful deity. But when we think of life as teaching us, then we just know we need to go deeper. We need to become more intimate. We have to draw close. Jesus said that God's love is like the sunlight. It falls on the just and the unjust. You do not have to beg. You do not have to seek as though it were someplace else. You just have to become attentive and reverent and observant. And then it's right there. Then the third promise that's here is when you knock, the door will be open. There's a very famous picture of this truth. This is the Scandinavian Jesus. If you want his hair products, we sell those after church. So this is obviously not something from the Middle East. And notice that the door does not have a doorknob. It seems to me the author was trying to say that we have to open from the inside out. That God isn't hiding from us behind some mystical door that we have to knock and implore. That we're locked in our own heart, we're locked in our own ego. And the Spirit is talking to us, leading us out. Have you ever been in a door that you're supposed to push and you pulled it? Or pull and you pushed it and you stuck there until you, okay, there's a different way to do this? We can get stuck like that in prayer. When we think what we want is for the door to open and us get toys. When what our heart longs for is to be transformed and to open up. It's like a caterpillar longing to be the butterfly. Jesus didn't come to talk about himself. He's saying that love, that compassion, that courage is in you. And every small action takes you in that direction. If we just think about it, it's not going to happen. But every time you act on your hope, on your value, on your love, on your curiosity, doors open. This is the way the Sophia passage says it. Wisdom reveals herself to all who desire to know her, and those who rise early and search for her will not grow weary of the journey, for they will find her seated at the door. I don't think it's a coincidence that Jesus constantly seems to be referring to and sometimes even quoting the Sophia passages. When he talks about himself, he always talks about going through himself to find something else. You ever notice that? I'm the door, I'm the path, I'm the gate. He says, I'm not talking about myself. Within you, there is a wisdom, a compassion, a curiosity, and a courage. And Jesus is trying to give birth to that. But it's not a one-time incident. It's a way of life. That when we live in curiosity and courage, doors open. We don't pray for God to save our children from getting shot while we're basically lobbying for weapons manufacturers. Become ambassadors for peace is what we do. We swim upstream. As Gandhi said, we become the change that we seek to see in the world. So I believe that one of the most important transformation that needs to take place in modern Christianity deals with prayer. And it's to move from the power model of a male king who gives out magical grants wishes to something that's written in you from birth. You are a child of the cosmos. You do not have to beg. If you ask and it seems like you haven't received, that means that you haven't realized that you already have it. It just needs to blossom. You need to nurture. You need to care for it. And if it seems like you seek and you never find, it's because you don't realize that all of life is teaching you. And what you're looking for is nearer than your very breath. Finally, if it seems like you've knocked on doors and they just don't open, realize it's because either you're knocking on the wrong door, it's not really one you want to go through anyway, or it opens outward into life, into love, into blossoming. This isn't the loss of our childhood religion. It deepens it, it broadens it, it makes it better. Well, this is my ponderings on this passage. Ask, seek, knock. We'll take a moment now for you to think about how you would have preached this.